My name is August. I am 44 years old. I'm a mother of three, and I am a cancer survivor. Elliott.
Hi, August. Nice to meet you virtually.
Nice to meet you.
I am 52 and I am a live performance painter, and I use the power of art to harness the power of giving back to charities. So I am so excited to be here, not live, which we wanted to, but virtually with you guys. So August, thank you very much for joining us, and please, to the world, because we're on everywhere, tell us about your journey with cancer.
Okay, well, let's see. I was in my 20s. I had a very small child, and I was pregnant with my second son. And I noticed that I had a lump that just started to trouble me. It was very tender, and I called my doctor and went in, and I was told that it was nothing and that I had no reason to think that it was anything other than fatty tissue because I was a pretty healthy 27-year-old, and it continued to bother me. So I saw a couple of other doctors in the same practice, and I made separate appointments and went to see people, and everyone told me the same thing, and no one would biopsy or take a sample just to give me that peace of mind. So it got to the point, I think partially because of the pregnancy hormones and partially just because I was legitimately concerned. It got to the point where I called the hospital and tried to schedule myself an MRI, and the nurse on the phone actually chuckled and said, "You can't do that. You have to have a doctor place the order for the MRI." And I literally broke down in tears on the phone at that point and told her my entire story and how no one was taking me seriously, and I felt like something was wrong. And at that point she said, "Well, let me make an appointment for you with this doctor, and then we'll see what he says." So at that point I was in Chicago. I went to Northwestern. I met with the doctor, and he did say, similar to the other doctors, it's probably nothing, but if it will put your mind at ease, why don't we take a sample? And he did that right in his office that day, and told me to come back 2 weeks later and for the results, and also to remove the stitches. When I went back 2 weeks later, I had just hit 8 months along in my pregnancy. I actually went to that appointment by myself because I was sure that I had overreacted and that it would be nothing. And I had planned to go grocery shopping and run a bunch of errands after my doctor appointment. And I'll never forget, I walked into the room and he closed the door and he said 5 words to me that changed my life forever. And what he said was, "The thing is, it's cancer." And at that point, I remember very clearly him saying that sentence, and then I don't remember a whole lot very clearly after that until he grabbed my arm and said to me, "Are you okay? You look very pale," and asked if I needed water. So I think after that he was telling me a lot of things, but I didn't really absorb them, and I ended up leaving the office, and later I had to call back to ask for the details because I hadn't heard them when he was first telling me. And so part of the details were that at the time they thought it was sarcoma, which is a very aggressive form of cancer, and they weren't exactly sure. It was still not fully identified. So they had sent my tissue sample to Mayo Clinic for further analysis, and we would have to wait a couple more weeks for that to come back. In the meantime, I was 8 months pregnant, and so they said, "Just keep doing what you're doing, and we're going to hope that you can go into labor on your own and have your baby, and then that we can address this afterwards and have a better plan of action once you've had the baby."
So how'd you feel, August? Sorry to interrupt you. I mean, you're pregnant. So, I mean, is the baby the first thing on your mind, or cancer on your mind?
Absolutely. It was, you know what? It was both. I mean, I think fear came in pretty quickly where I wondered if I would be here to raise that baby and the son that I already had. So that was a big piece of what I was feeling at the time. And the other part was just cancer is this big scary word, and it's just full of unknown. It's full of terrifying unknowns, and I was feeling really overwhelmed by that. And so I actually didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to say the words I have cancer to anyone. So I didn't tell my loved ones. I didn't tell my friends and family. And I sort of hid away for a little bit from people, which was pretty noticeable because that's not how I usually am.
So were you afraid, August, that they were going to talk more about your pregnancy than your cancer? Because I can't even imagine. You're worried about all that stuff.
I was just really worried that cancer would be the only thing anyone wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
It would just overwhelm everything. I was really afraid that cancer would own me, and I didn't want that to happen. And so I didn't want to talk about it. And it took me a while. I would say probably a couple of weeks to start to tell people what had happened, and that they were still trying to figure out what kind it was. And my very best friend, who we've been friends now for 28 years, who's been present at all of the births of my children, and she was the first to rally around me and immediately just very supportive. We're gonna get you through this pregnancy, and then we're gonna get you through this cancer. And also at the same time still treated me like her friend and a human being,
Yep.
So I think she was a big part of me being able to emotionally and mentally cope with everything happening at the same time.
Yeah, I think friends are such a huge support network that you need to get through it. You think you can most likely get along by yourself, but you really need a whole big support group to get you through it.
Right. And I did find that there were things I didn't share. I didn't really talk about how scared I was, or how deeply I was affected, because I just moved into focusing on finishing the pregnancy and having a healthy baby and all of that. And later, when I was able to participate in Brushes with Cancer, I actually opened up and started talking about how scared I was and what that actually felt like in those moments. And I hadn't realized until then that there were things I still hadn't processed. And so I think this, being able to share my story, really helps with that process of, the extra layer of healing.
So August, how did Brushes with Cancer help you out in the beginning?
So it just, I guess I should say that I had my son, and he's healthy, and we just celebrated his 17th birthday. So everything's good there. And by the time I did my first stint with Brushes with Cancer, or my first experience with Brushes with Cancer, he was 9. And so it was a long time after I had gone through the experience, but I was able to finally open up about, like I said, some of the emotions that I was feeling at the time, and share that with another person, with the artist that I was matched with. And I realized I hadn't really dealt with it, right? I hadn't talked about it. My friends and family were trying really hard to help me get through it and to help me be strong. And so there wasn't really that moment where I got to just break down and say, this is really what I'm feeling. And even though it was years later, it was so cleansing and so healing to be able to express that and actually put words to what I was feeling in those moments of being diagnosed and going through treatment and surgery and everything like that.
And how are your kids now that, it's been a while since you've been going on? Do you worry about the kids, and do they worry about cancer, and how is it affecting them as you move through life,
That is a good question. So they know my story, and especially my middle son. I have 3 boys now, and they are 19, 17, and 14. So I did have one more son after that. And they have come along to Twist Out Cancer events with me and volunteered. So they're very much aware of my story and how it affected our family. But I don't think that at this point it's still a fear for them. I still have my yearly checkups and what we call in the community what we call scanxiety. Every time you have a scan, you have that anxiety that comes along with it when you're waiting for the results. But I don't think it's a regular fear on their part. Although I don't know. I don't think that I've actually asked them that question. So now that you've asked me, I'm going to.
Sorry I brought that up, but I think it's a fair question to ask, with the kids.
It really is,
I have a friend, the father had colon cancer, and he needs to be screened all the time, and even he talks to his kids that are young that they're going to have their checkups throughout life.
Right.
Wow. So I get from your story, the inspiration of wanting to tell people and afraid of it, and now needing your support group, and your friends are there for you, and this painting is kind of based on that, of a support group, needing friends when you go through cancer, and you just need all the love that you can have, to get you through the hard times. So this piece kind of resembles that. Anything else you'd like to share with everybody, August?
I guess I just want to say, when I was saying I didn't want the cancer to own me, what I eventually realized was that I could own that part of my story without the cancer overtaking me and who I am and my strength and my endurance and my perseverance. And I think that that's important for people to remember, because, like I mentioned, cancer is such a big word, and it's a big menacing word, right? And so it doesn't have to own you. Just because you had cancer or have cancer doesn't mean that cancer has you. So that's, I think.
Yeah, and it's part of your life, and that's what you went through. You can't discontinue it. This brought you on through your journey now through life. What's going to be now your second part of life of going through, I think It's an amazing thing that you don't forget about it, It didn't take you over. You got through it and you moved on, and you're leading a great life. The little bit I've known you, that we talk, it's fantastic. All right, August, we are done. Are you ready to see your painting?
Yes, I can't wait.
Here we go.
Oh my God.
So the hearts represent to me the outreach for the support group, and you have, kind of abstract hands there, but those are the hands reaching out for the love and support.
That is stunning. Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. I mean, it's beautiful. It's perfect. I can see how it encapsulates that part of my story, and I can't believe you did this in a matter of moments. It's incredible.
Well, thank you. I had an amazing time in the journey doing it with you.